For years, the MCU has been dominating the superhero media through big-budget entertainers and their record-breaking collections. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. On the contrary, the DC is undergoing a comparatively harder time with all the creative changes that hit the company. Presently, the new DC regime under James Gunn is awaiting the release of the DCU's first big movie, Superman. Since its very first announcement, Superman, starring David Corenswet, has raised many headlines for different aspects. Among them, one of the hottest topics of conversation is the new Superman suit. Many fans are still not over the iconic costume in Zack Snyder's Man of Steel. For all the billions it makes, the MCU still can't fix a major problem that Zack Snyder fixed on day one with Man of Steel. The fans were baffled when the first Iron Man, released in 2008, gave one of the best suit-up scenes in superhero media. Since then, the Iron Man suits have always been a highlight among fans. However, besides that, there is hardly any MCU suit that is etched in the memory of fans. On top of that, the first Captain America suit from 2012's The Avengers aged very poorly. Following Phase 1, the MCU did some occasional good work with their suits here and there, but most of them failed to make a mark. Recently, Marvel Studios has been in the news regarding costumes a lot after they finally gave Hugh Jackman his iconic Wolverine suit. But it must be acknowledged that nothing has been pitch perfect. The recent MCU suits have also been called out for over-design. The issue of superhero costume designs has been a subject of debate among both the MCU and DC fans in recent years. Recently, a Redditor pointed out that the MCU, despite its record-breaking box office, still has a major drawback with its costumes. Despite having a long list of superheroes in the present MCU, hardly any costumes could reach the level of Man of Steel. Zack Snyder's DC era was undeniably polarizing among fans, but he nailed it with the looks. Henry Cavill looked straight out of a comic book page in his sleek trunkless suit. A Redditor recently reflected the thoughts of countless MCU fans by criticizing the MCU-fication of costumes by adding more lines and padding instead of going with the classic body-fitting suits. Projects like Thor, Love and Thunder and Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania have clearly shown that the over-designing of suits looks very bad on screen. The MCU suit problem is also very evident in the promotional materials of Thunderbolt's star. Besides Red Guardian and US Agent, to some extent, none of the characters are seen in very appealing costumes. Interestingly, the first look of Louis Pullman Sentry was revealed during Hasbro Pulse's 2025 Marvel Legends fan stream. Even in the comments section of the Reddit post, some fans have noted that comic book accuracy does not look good in live action. Nonetheless, it must also be noted that every other MCU suit, with its over-design, has not only created a visual monotony, but most of them also do not look very appealing on screen. Zack Snyder's suit design succeeded in providing depth and character to the superheroes who don them, which is highly lacking in the MCU right now. It may be debatable that the blue and yellow lines on the waist, torso, and legs are given to highlight the character's muscular physique. Sentry, one of the strongest Marvel superheroes, has donned one of the simplest yet most badass costumes in the comics. It will certainly not be an easy task for the MCU to carry forward that same aura in live action. Despite looking very similar to its comic counterpart, it must be admitted that the problem of random lines exists in this suit as well. Although we are yet to see the character in live action, it can polarize some fans. As things stand, the DCU is dead, and James Gunn's DCU has taken its place. Justice League was supposed to be a middle chapter of Zack Snyder's vision, following Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, with a full JL trilogy planned. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. But those plans are gone, and so is the Snyderverse. Some faint calls to restore the 300 directors superhero universe can still be heard, but they're nowhere near as strong as the push for the Snyder Cut. Around the turn of the decade, Justice League Snyder Cut was a defining film event, but 4 years later, it feels like much ado about nothing. What was once seen as a revolutionary fan movement that pushed for greater creative autonomy now seems like a fad, especially considering how things played out afterward. Without a doubt, the Snyder Cut is better than the 2017 Justice League, which Joss Whedon belatedly took over and fans mockingly called Justice League. Snyder's extended version fixed many of the original's problems, but it came at a cost. So, the question remains, Was all the fanfare behind #release the Snyder Cut worth it 4 years later? The answer is a resounding no. The Snyder Cut might seem like a fan-driven victory, but it set a dangerous precedent. Unlike the calls for the eventual Superman 2 Richard Donner cut release, this campaign became toxic, leading to harassment, boycotts, and even death threats against studio executives. A Rolling Stone report from July 2022 revealed that fake accounts helped push the movement. It also claimed that in June 2020, Snyder had allegedly made a menacing remark toward producers Jeff Johns and John Berg. "Jeff and John are dragging their feet on taking their names off my cut. Now, I will destroy them on social media." This whole fiasco might also be indirectly responsible for the DCU's demise. Fans pushed for a sequel Warner Brothers never planned, which made it harder for the studio to chart a clear course. It also exposed how mismanaged the DCU had been from the start. The $70 million spent on the Snyder Cut didn't boost HBO Max subscriptions in the long run. Adding this to the original movie's $300 million cost, the studio likely saw the Snyderverse as a financial dead end. As things stand, the DCU is dead, and James Gunn's DCU has taken its place. Justice League was supposed to be a middle chapter of Zack Snyder's vision, following Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, with a full JL trilogy planned. But those plans are gone, and so is the Snyderverse. Some faint calls to restore the 300 directors superhero universe can still be heard, but they're nowhere near as strong as the push for the Snyder Cut. Ultimately, the Snyder Cut made Zack Snyder even more divisive as a filmmaker. It is true that his extended cuts of Watchmen and Batman v Superman are seen as better than their theatrical versions. Weirdly, he designed an approach with the Rebel Moon films that had original and director's cuts planned from the beginning, which makes no sense if you have full creative control from the jump. Both versions of the Netflix films were critically panned, and Snyder's longer R-rated cuts were only slightly better. In all honesty, this whole charade is getting exhausting. Zack Snyder's version of Justice League may be better than what Joss Whedon made, but let's be honest, that's not a high bar. This may be an unpopular opinion among DCU or Snyder fans, but it needs to be said, the Snyder Cut isn't the cult classic masterpiece they believe it to be. If Justice League felt like a bad movie, this was simply a longer, slightly improved, but still mediocre miniseries version of it. It might have worked as a filler film to continue the DC Snyderverse, but clearly, that's not where we are today. Essentially, Whedon took Snyder's original vision for Justice League and cut it down to please the studio. Warner Brothers wasn't happy with Snyder's direction, especially after the backlash to Batman v Superman. The result? A messy, rushed, and sometimes incoherent film. Characters and major events were thrown in with no setup, and the story relied too much on weak excuses and coincidences, making it hard to care about anything. Snyder's 4-hour cut did show just how much was brutally removed. The new script added some context, fixed plot holes, and made the story feel more complete. A lot was lost in Whedon's version, especially in terms of character development. Cyborg finally got a real backstory and arc here,